Welcome everyone to this month's Elid webinar, which is now happening quarterly, not monthly anymore. So we now have our webinars every quarter because we're spending more time on workshops. People want to learn, gain skills and experience, so we're spending more time to delve into workshops and get people to learn. I'm going to share my screen briefly. So if you don't know me, my name is Oyindamola Ojo Area Meato. Let me know if you can see my screen. My name
Yes,
is
we can see it.
Oyindamola Ojo Area Meato. I'm the founder of Beccamola Learning Solutions, where we provide learning experience design solutions to organizations. And I also am the founder of the Elid Hub, where we help people to gain skill and experience in edtech career and to either start their career or enhance their career in edtech. I'm a Genially ambassador. I'm very passionate about the professional development of people. I'm also a director at the Learning Network. And the reason for the Elite Hub is pretty much to help people, like I said earlier, gain skills and experience. We have webinars, we have workshops. We had our first conference last year, May, which was amazing. And we also launched our mentoring program. So today we have in our midst a wonderful person, Sophie, going to be talking to us about learning experience design. So over to you, Sophie.
Thank you so much, Oyindamola. It's always a pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm really hoping that people will join really
Yeah,
briefly.
absolutely.
That
Yeah,
because I wanted also it to be participative, but once again, we will definitely go with the flow and we will engage
yeah,
on that topic of today, which is learning experience design and creativity.
yeah.
So I have a few slides. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Can you see the presentation? Now, can you see it?
Yes, it's up now.
Perfect. Okay, all good.
All right.
All right. So welcome to this webinar. I know it's like, as we've said with the Oyindamola, it will be 30-35 presentation, and then we'll have Q&As. So because of that, I'll go through the content, and we will see where we stop and try to, take more time or not, depending also on the participation and today's setup. First, we're here with Achille and Oyindamola and whoever is joining. I'll just ask you to define creativity if you can in 3 words or 1 word, briefly, very briefly. Then we will continue this moment.
Yeah, I think Fadel is here as well.
Well,
Sorry, Fadel, if you can tell us where you're joining from in the chat as well, that'll be great.
and yes, first interaction we have together is just to share some words about creativity. Oyindamola, if you can share with me vocally what people are writing, because I cannot see, that would be fair. Otherwise, it's really just, to engage now with our brains and ask ourselves, what is creativity for me?
All right.
Is it art? Is it,
Mm.
is it music? Is it writing? Is it anything? Can you please share briefly what is creativity for you? Really, really briefly. 1 word, 2 words, 3 words. That would be amazing. You can write in the chat if you don't want to speak up, which is very, very fine. It's always better to speak with people, but it's okay. It's the end of the day, so no worries. Please then write it up in the chat. Creativity in a few words. Really simple. What comes to your mind? Improve thinking, observing. Thank you. I love this. Thank you so much. Yeah. Do not hesitate because everyone we have our own definitions, and that's the most important. Great. Thanks. Very good. Anyone, please carry on writing what is creativity for you. I will move on Anything you would like me to come back to, you can put in the chat, and there is no worries. Again, it's a very like free and open situation here tonight, and I will carry on with the slides. So open up our question about creativity, the agenda, and will be adjusted timely wise. Okay. First, we'll discuss some terms. Then we'll discuss a bit about education and learning. We'll see some examples, which are called case studies, just like tangible examples. Then we will have like an overview of resources about creativity and learning that are combined together. And then you will have like a short action and prototyping session, also following what we call in creativity process. Okay, that's the moment when you also engage in those in the subject of today. And again, we do not hesitate to ask any question. We have 35 minutes together on this presentation, and then we'll have all Q&As. All right? So the definitions, I definitely chose to use different type of definitions. First is from the CEO of IDEO, which is like a very well-known design company. And it was this one more like connected, to corporate-ish design process, something more scientific, but also industrialized, that a lot of people use today, and also that we use in learning experience. So like, let's say it's a human-centered approach to innovation. You have a toolkit, you integrate the needs of people, you use technology, and you also follow up with business requirements. Then you have more open definitions about creativity that I really wanted to come also here connect with more personal approaches from the art director Virgil Abloh, talking about mentorship, that everything we invent, we also did with other people. So the importance of the community, and also that timeline of design now in our contemporary moments of how we can all, with our creativity and designs, share our ideas, shape new experiences for our businesses, for learners if we work in education, etc. And also the connection with a more artistic point of view with Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, a writer that is really talking about the phenomenon of creation, a very human, a personal endeavor, of course. And that connection with art, that is a very personal force and energy that we all have without any exception. So again, those definitions, for me, the importance is to understand that we all have our own approach on creativity and art, depending on what we do and where our work. So it's important to embrace those different definitions, the spectrum of what creativity means and can mean, because you can also create new definitions, right? Okay, so from this concept, we also approach the concept of learning experience design. It's a reminder because the webinar is not about developing definitions of learning experience. We have already done a lot of webinars on that, and one with Oyindamola. So the idea is just to remind that in the learning experience design, you have a lot of elements connected to the design and the creativity. But you also have the big part of the learning, right? The cognitive, the psychology, the neurology, how people learn, how people adapt to their learning environment, to what we give them to get new skills and knowledge, but also everything about teaching, about training from classroom to online, okay? So we see it's a mix of all those concepts and methods, and we will deep dive a bit into it. Why education and learning? I am putting them together in that question of creativity. Because maybe a lot of us have been learning from school in a very forced environment. Sometimes I love to discuss about it with fellows instructional designers or other people. When does it feel forced when you learn something, and when does it feel like a passion, like it's playful, you're having fun? So you see that sparks helps you learn, have the skills and knowledge to then maybe have a job or maybe deploy your business, etc. So it's also very important to question that link, because we will see of course the room and the place for creativity is trying to put us to the passion side. Feeling forced can work for a very short time. We can behave like on being forced for sure, but at some point it will create a resistance, right? So in that idea, let's question yourself. How important is learning and education to you? How do you feel with that now? How did you feel in the past? And how do you want to feel if you don't still like are not very like comfortable with it? It's really a question that I'm opening for you. We will move forward on the slides, okay? But it's just some specific question I put right there so that you carry on this webinar asking yourself the right questions as well. Okay, let's move on. Now, the idea of bringing education and learning as maybe something that has not always been in a creative approach and design and methodology is because, as you know, we all have been to school. We have been to workplaces, which is okay, that are not putting creativity forward. Again, it's fine if it's not serving the business at the moment. It's like, let's say, the leadership is deciding it's not serving, or maybe in which degree it's not serving, because it's always depend on the degree, on how we think creativity can enhance the business or the processes. All right, let's not judge, let's just be fair. And now we're questioning, okay, more and more people would be from science, would be also from people criticizing, or maybe trying to get better educational experience, will say, but maybe we need more human-centered, learner-centered approach, and more like deeply that creative approach. We want maybe children, adult learner as well, in corporations, in academies, universities, maybe online, to also have that feeling of joy, fun, and play, because this is also how our brain works. It's very important. It has been shown and shown again that we learn better when we play and we don't feel it as it is being forced. The curiosity and the growth of the mindset definitely helps. The more you enhance your curiosity, the less you judge. You will judge other people, you will judge yourself in the learning path, right? So this is also why it's very important to try and connect those different concept of education, learning process, and the creativity as maybe a very important fuel, to make all of this work in a very like virtuous way. And the empathy, bridge and sharing is the part of communication, right? Enhancing creativity in a area and a domain of learning can definitely also help people being more self-aware of themselves and other people in the room. It's the same for teaching people or students, receiving the knowledge, let's say, and a process of social awareness that can also really deepen knowledge and feel like more connected to the content itself. And when you're more connected to the content, you're more connected to how you will be able to develop and deliver the content and the skills that you have learned, right? That's again what we call a virtuous process that we imagine in those three different concepts. Now, I wanted really to talk about concepts and theory and so on, approach some definitions and some facts, to go to more case studies, right? To the applications of those concepts. Excuse me if I speak too fast. And to see, okay, how does it look like? It's very important to always ask ourselves, what does it look like? Because we have different perceptions, right? And let's see how in reality we can find some inspiration, which is also part of a creative process. What will inspire me? How can I make it work if I see something good? And then continue to share our like skills and knowledge. I just shared here one example, and then I'll have a few case studies as examples as well, because the idea is really to break down how in our process of instructional design, learning experience to develop content of educational purposes, we will put degree of creativities, tools, resource, concept, and so on. And it's very diverse. And I will quote Oyindamola here, always make sure that this degree of creativity will match with the client's need or with the learners you're working with, right? So it's really to be more and more aware and conscious of how creativity can be intentionally put, designed, and developed in our content and process as learning designer, excuse me. So this example is a storyboard. It's the one I had designed with another company. I was not the one doing the illustration, but I was the one doing, the setup of the storyboard, which means we will put that image here, and then we will put the text like that, and the story will go that way. So it was a lot about storytelling, which is a huge part of creativity. Is how you make a learner come to terms to the behavior or the skills we want him or her to have through a story we will share with the person, right? And here it was a story of colleagues having an issue at work and what kind of behavior they should adapt, right? So it was helping the HR department. This is an example, a tangible example of creativity, and you have different levels and degrees, right? Here you have it in design itself. It's on a phone. It's using then an audio in the local language. It was in Ghana. Then it's also using storytelling. Then you have illustration, etc. So you have different mix, parts of creative endeavors that will help you have a result that will engage the learner, will be flexible, will be efficient as well for the business and the requirements. Here some like brief examples, and one quite different, because that was again for me the goal was to show you the diversity of creativity, process, thinking, solutions we can bring to the table as instructional designer or any type of educational project, right? So you have games, like basic games that will be designed. For instance, this was an articulate storyline, which is a tool used for instructional design. And then you had knowledge assessment. Excuse me, there is an echo. It's okay, but yeah.
Mm.
And then you had the Kahoot. This is the second one. The B one is like a very known platform for quiz with music, and you can put images, and it's really playful. It really looks like a game. You will play it on your phone with a screen that will show the results. So it's like basic, but also, you use that link. It's very interactive. People use it a lot. It's very playful. It has been designed for this. And then I shared this picture of a project that I really enjoyed talking about from a company I respect a lot, which is working in e-learning in Rwanda, called Three Mountains. And they were trying to design content for rural people about some security, knowledge and skills, so that it could really help them in their projects and activities. But they were not succeeding in finding the right solution. So they iterated, they went on the ground, on the fields, and they tried, and it didn't work, and they tried again. So they didn't stop when it was not working. They used that creative process of iteration, of prototyping and trying again, because they wanted the learners to feel comfortable, flexible, engaged in the solution. And they found out, okay, we will create a podcast with SD cards that people can put in their phones. And this is how they developed, by really going and trying, even if they did not realize they were doing a lot of design thinking process. We talked about this. This is actually what they did, and they did it successfully. So for me, it was also another diverse example on how we can put creative, here and here on the process, on the design, on the resolution itself, and every part of the learning experience design process, because this is why I chose LXD in the webinar title, because it's in the part of the whole process that we can use creativity and find the right solution or have a good experience for the learners. Now, why was I talking a lot about design thinking, creativity, learning experience design? Because there is an evident relationship on the process of instructional design and design thinking process. So this is an example that I took from a lot of different sources online verified about instructional design and design thinking, is the fact that there is definitely like a crossing path and a match on, okay, we have phases of, as instructional designers, of getting the needs of the learners, focusing and empathizing on their needs, making sure that we are as close as possible to the real problem, because we want to solve that gap into a learning solution, right? then how we will develop it, with which resources, which tools. Then we will have some solutions and try, it will be maybe a webinar, it will be maybe an online courses or a hybrid mode. And then we'll have the whole evaluation and feedback loop to make sure that we improve it on the go. And then you have the design thinking process has its like mainly defined, because you can find, of course, different approaches, but let's use the main one. It's also with a lot of empathy, designing, defining, and researching a lot on finding the user problem, the user need, that empathy part, making sure you're human-centered. Then you will do that implementation and try to make it work with the iteration during the prototype session, of course, and develop the solution, taste an alpha version, a beta version, and so on. So that was very important to remind that connection between design thinking and pedagogical methods that we do use in e-learnings, and more largely in designing a course that can also be hybrid or in person. All right. So that merge is very important, and I want you to really think about how you can embrace when you design a course, when you want to incorporate your own creativity in the process, that you can use this kind of process to help you really develop your own like out of the box solution and find what was missing maybe if you feel stuck. That's very important. That's the force of creativity. That's the power of it. So a review of the resource, we're almost there. That's also very important to share, because this is the basis of how we can enhance the creative ideas we have. Okay, what will I use? That's my palette. What will I use when I want to be creative? So you have, of course, the media of communication, Zoom, Teams. You have authoring tool, Articulate, PowerPoint, Canva. You have the Kahoot for quiz. You have Camtasia and Loom for recording and screencast. You have Animaker Beyond for like really doing 2D animations, Moodle for LMS. You have LinkedIn and eLearning Heroes blog, because you need your community. You also have those blogs to always ask people, how can I do this? Or you did that. Community is it's a big part of the design thinking and creativity process. You cannot create by yourself alone. That was one of the definitions. You need people, you need mentor. We are all like social beings, and it will enhance your creativity. So get inspired and inspire other people. You have YouTube, of course, Spotify for podcast or for videos, Duolingo for like very playful and gamified learning tools. Genially is the same, etc. So here you have like an overview. From this overview, ask yourself, how do you feel about those features? Which one is used to use daily? Which one is to use in an easy way? It's difficult, you don't want to use. All of these will also help you choose, right? And depending on the needs of the project and business at that moment, that will definitely also help you structure that creative process, that all like the ideas, the brainstorm you can have. Then from this kind of questions you ask yourself, it helps you focus, find your structure, because it's also part of the process of creativity is iterate, which means trying and trying again on the idea you have to make sure it's working well, right? We carry on. We are almost at the end of this presentation. I would love to conclude it with a short game we can do together that will be on the chat. You can just share some words. You don't have to be like doing a whole session of brainstorm. I will ask you 5 minutes to think about, a course to design. And from what we have talked about and seen, what kind of elements of creativity you want to put. So, if it's not clear, please tell me, I will repeat. Here are the instructions. You will design a course about the basic of agriculture for young professionals learners. It's a course online, 2 hours. It is just random information. Don't put too much thought on it. Just think that you will be using visuals, audio, text elements, and that course, it will be for an academy in Tokyo and one in Nairobi. The fact that I choose those two is because you have context. And every time you have context, you have problem solving. You have to think out of your box. Don't be too narrowed in what you want to offer. And that will help and enhance that creativity. Every constraint enhance creativity. So if you can choose one city, and then you just share with us in 5 minutes creative elements that we have been talking about, resource, Zoom, iterations, just games, video, images, anything you think of creative. Please go crazy. You can think about anything. That would be amazing. Oyindamola, can we do this for 5 minutes? In 5 minutes, they can share on the chat. Would that work?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Do you want people to also speak?
That would be amazing if they can speak, for sure. But yes, let's maybe have them thinking 2-3 minutes, and then we can push people to share what they think about that. Yeah, again, select creative elements from this discussion, this presentation, and then let's just have like a debrief together. And
Okay,
yes,
so
we
I
can.
have a question to clarify. So
Yeah,
when you say creative elements, are you talking about those elements you shared earlier?
and yes, anything I've shared earlier, it would be from the process of design thinking in ADI, for instance, or just using a game, or just using Zoom, or using Kahoot, anything that you will find creative and appeals you.
Hmm. Okay. So
Fadel, I will ask you. Huh?
I've also put a question in the chat. Darlings, I think Darlings was kicked out. She just came back. So what we are doing now, Darlings, is to brainstorm. If you are asked to create a course for an academy in Tokyo and another in Nairobi, so how would you, a course that will last for 2 hours, you want to share all the elements that you want to include in the course based on what was
Yeah,
shared today.
yeah. The
Were
most
you here when
creative,
the elements, okay. Were you
the
here when
most.
the elements were shared, darlings? Sorry, we're saying something, Sophie.
Yeah, I was just saying to really try to think out of the box, not only thinking, okay, I'll have to share the goals of a session and the evaluations. This we know. I'm really trying to say, okay, let's make it really creative, more fun, more engaging, curious, empathetic.
Mm,
Really develop those creative aspects. I think we can start maybe to get some answers,
yeah.
guys.
Who
Fadel,
wants to go
please.
first? You want to put something in the chat,
That would be
guys?
really,
So it could be like Sophie said, it could be your process, it could be the maybe the tool, the authoring tool you're using. How would you make the course creative?
yeah. Achille and Fadel, please do not hesitate. I know you have a lot of ideas, guys. A lot of great ideas. Please share with us.
Yeah, I can see people typing. I'm pretty sure Darlene still has some really great ideas.
Yeah, just
Work
share
with
your ideas. Every
type.
ideas are welcome. They are all good, always.
Yeah.
You can share in the chat, please, if you don't want to speak up, which is very fine. You can write your brainstorm words in the chat. And don't think too much, it's just coming out of your mind. Do we have anything, Fadel, Ashil, you're writing? Thank you so much. Fadel, I know you have brilliant ideas. Aziz, darlings, Philip, please share anything you would think. Can be two things, one, four. All ideas are good. Anything, guys? Or Indamola, do you want to share your opinion on that?
Yeah,
What
sure.
would
I
come
can
to
see
your mind?
people are typing.
Yes, let's share.
Yeah.
Let's have your opinion.
Okay,
I'm sure you
great.
have.
Somebody's comment just came up. So
Cool.
Chi,
Great.
can you read it? Can you see the chat?
Yeah.
Sophie,
I
okay.
see that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will first choose Zoom meetings, recorded, and then on YouTube. Nice. It's already being used. Very, very smart to reuse a platform that's already creative and being used by people. Animations, great engagement, good. Yes, it's easy for people to try context when they see it. Very good connection of learning experience and creative idea. Very, very good. Absolutely. Yeah. And then you bring that Kahoot that will be more interactive than the animations you had. That's also a good rhythm you put. That's very good. Yeah, that's great idea. Thanks.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
a
love,
great one.
mm, I would love to
There's
see those
more,
animations.
I can see more coming.
Yeah, great. Very good.
That's a nice one. I like the fact that you're using a platform that has already been used. I mean, that's one mistake that a lot of people make. And no, learning about new platforms and new technology. People just want to dive into technology, but many times it's quite practical to stick with
Yeah.
what people are already familiar with, what people already know how to use, what is easy for people. So,
Yeah.
Philip and Laurie, welcome. What we're doing is we're in the brainstorming session where we're talking about if you want to design a course and you want to be creative. And these are the, if you look on the screen, these are the information about the screen. It's a course about the course, a course that will last for 2 hours. You can use visuals, auditory, text elements. The course will be for an academy in Tokyo and Nairobi. So you want to share with us the creative elements you will select for this course based on what we have talked about.
And to emphasize on, for instance, Ashil's idea, which is great, the animation you will make in Tokyo will not be the same that you will do in Nairobi, which makes
Yeah,
sense. How you represent people working on the field, which kind of product they have in Japan or in Kenya are not the same.
yeah,
You'll have to pay attention to all of this. So being creative, but adapt
yeah.
it to the context.
Absolutely. Adaptation where the characters you want to use for Nairobi will be different from Tokyo because, people look different. I think Aziz has a question here. What should we consider before choosing authoring tool? You
It
want to answer that,
depends.
Sophie?
Yeah, I think it depends on your constraint. If you have
Mm,
a limited budget, you can
mm,
choose the most expensive because it will be the most easy to use and the more fun. Unfortunately, it still work like that, but you can do like a small research. I also have some information on that I can share with you. If you put your email, I can definitely share that with you, just links. And that will definitely help you choose what kind of budget you have. If you like having like a very complex content, it's better to use authoring tool that will manage that complex content. Articulate is great for that.
Yeah.
If you just want to share some screencast of you recording and showing a screen, you can use Loom because it's free. You can use
Yeah.
screencast features
Yeah.
and software from the computer.
Screenpal also is free for
Great.
screencast. And for complex ideas as well, just like storyline.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Genially can do a lot of interactivity,
Yes.
and it's very, very affordable.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And that's the question is perfect because that's exactly the
yeah,
question you should ask yourself.
yeah.
Okay.
So
What should I do?
As is put in here, one should consider the budget, yes, content requirement, keep your learners in mind,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think Snagit is useful technical
Great.
training. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing you want to also consider when you're choosing your authoring tool, apart from budget content, is what do you need to, what is the organizational goal? What are they trying to achieve? You know, in considering your learners, what do they need to be able to do after they've taken the course? Then how does that impact the organization? Those are things that you also want to look at. You can see more people typing. So the question is, what are the creative elements? Creative elements that you select for your course.
And Aziz, I would also add, as you said, for the learner needs, if you go to a too much complex content or too simple, depending also on who are the learners, it's
Yeah,
important to adapt. And that authoring tool will also help you nail the right
yeah,
experience. So you really
yeah,
have to emphasize that learner approach, human center, empathy, questioning, researching,
yeah,
to make sure your prototype is adapted.
yeah, absolutely. I can see Fadel and Philip typing.
Yes.
Yeah, several
Thanks,
people
Fadil.
are typing. That's great. If anybody wants to speak while we're waiting for others that are typing, you can just unmute yourself and speak. It's a small group this evening. Before I mentioned it, my thoughts, I think it's good to allow people to, allow people are typing. Okay, so Laurie says, okay, mics are muted. Okay, you want to talk, Laurie? I can unmute you. One moment. Okay, give me a moment. I would, okay, so Laurie, you should be able to speak now.
Hello, good evening, good day.
Hi, Laurie.
I'm sorry I missed obviously the content, the core content of your presentation, but I'm just looking at your case study. I can tell you one thing I wouldn't do.
Okay.
So I think given that you're likely going to have this content in different languages, probably in English or Kiswahili, and then in Japanese. I would avoid lots of graphics that have text in them because they're a bit of a nightmare to translate.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I would avoid.
Yeah,
That's
thank you
great.
for that. That's very good. I'm talking about cognitive overload. You don't want to overload your learners with too much texts. Yeah, thank you so
Yes.
much for that. That's
I love this link, Oyindamola. Like creativity shouldn't be connected to creative overload. Absolutely,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
even how to make sure by being creative that we really respect the principles of instructional
yeah,
designs of good learner experience. So thank you for that, Laurie. That's absolutely right.
yeah. I can see more people typing. You can, if you want to speak, let me know. If typing is taking time, you can see Fadel and Philip have been typing forever.
Yes, guys, please do not hesitate to share also.
Okay, let me.
That might be faster.
Yeah. So Philip, you can go ahead and talk if you want. I just enabled you to be able to do that. Philip, are you able to talk? Okay.
Hello? I don't know. I will also use maybe a few minutes or maybe seconds before the text come into the chat.
Yeah. Okay. Something just came up now. That's Fadel.
Perfect. Yes, Laurie, very true about the cultural relevance of the characters. Very, very important. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes in line with what someone said earlier. I think so. We
All
have
right.
Philip and Fadel. Okay. So Fadel says, I will devise the course in two parts. First, create 1 hour e-learning course using Articulate, then create maybe some podcasts or even some webinars with subject matter experts who will share firsthand insights on the topics dealing with the real life situation. Excuse me. This will allow to have a blended learning journey. For up to evaluation, I think a gamification using H5P would be great. The course can be made accessible on Noodle as it's easier to use. This is one strategy on its own. I mean, talking about multimedia, what do you think, Sophia? Using different formats is an accessible way of designing a course. You're using different formats because you have different people that learn in different ways. I think this is brilliant.
I agree. That's really great. To put some gamification elements here and there, as we were talking during the presentation, is to know and be conscious on where you put those creative elements, which degree of creativity you develop them based on the context you're in, the constraints you have, and the business requirement, as always. Yeah, that's a very, very great response from Fadel.
Amazing.
And also from Philippe.
Yes.
You like this a lot. Thank you so much for sharing the part of the visual, going directly to images and illustrations. The auditory, that's very good. I like the fact that you use sounds of what is, I think is very good, because that will put the person in the situation if they're like online or if they cannot access the part of the lesson, like different setups of your learner's context. You are bringing solutions, and that's very good.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
You said text labeling the tools. That's very, very, very important.
We're going into the details, and we love this. Because this is where the creativity sparks as well. Yes, definitely videos. If it's limited data, that's a very good one. This is why maybe podcasts somehow sometimes can work with some track sound, as Philip was saying, etc. Depending, of course, as you said, on the load. Data is definitely a big consideration. That, for instance, if we go to Tokyo, if maybe some specific context of very developed technology can put you even forward in that creativity. Sometimes also that context that will already bring you all the tools you need in a cheap way can also bring another experience. Definitely. Great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate. We'll move forward. I know we have to continue, but that was great. Those were great inputs. Oyindamola, please share yours if you.
Yeah. I mean, as they were talking, I was already they've said a lot of things that I had in mind. I think I made the input about understanding your learners, understanding what the organization wants to achieve, and understanding your learners' goals. You know, we've mentioned things about using characters that are relevant to the geographical location, understanding the tools that work for them. It's not enough to just jump on a tool or showcase your use of it, your ability to use a tool because it's popular. You need to understand that it's going to work for the purpose. It's fit for purpose. So understanding the purpose of your learning design, understanding the people will help you to make the right choice of tools and the design considerations, the learner's journey, the learning experience. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Love it. Thank you, Indamola. Okay, let's move because we're getting close to the end. The wrap up. So thank you for participating. Definitely enjoyed this. That's always great. Thank you, Laurie, for taking the microphone. I really love it when people also speak on the microphones. That's great. Some takeaway I wanted to wrap up with you before we go to a whole Q&A session, or if you want to go back to some specific part of the webinar, definitely also. I'll just maybe have a few recap. I have selected those because I wanted to really, like, let's say, reflect on the information we have been talking about and sharing, and our own practice as instructional designers as well. Is to be intentional. What you're doing, the creativity, even for yourself, is maybe to really get curious, really take the ownership of that creativity. I'm not telling you should go and paint a whole content for learning course. It's not that, but be intentional on the degree of creativity maybe you want to put in the design or in the process itself. Because sometimes too much creative design will not work with the client, and it's fine. It can be frustrating, but it's fine. But you can have your own process in a very creative way. You can have mind maps. You can do podcasts to maybe enhance your own, thinking. You can meet with people and write on walls, on boards. Use colors and even a lot of design thinking elements that will give you also that fun and playfulness in your own process and will then translate in your learning experience design adjusted to the needs, of course. But yeah, let's be intentional. That can be incorporated in different degrees, as I said. Make sure it's aligned with your client's needs always. Again, I will quote Oyindamola here. It will depend on what the person is receiving, is willing to receive. Because sometimes if you don't match, it's not because your idea is wrong. It's just because that's not what the person needed. Clarify this. Very important. So that's also about setting the expectations to make sure everyone is clear on how we are going to work on the project together and those creative, let's say, parts and flows. Stay curious, stay playful, because life's short and workload is heavy for everyone. So approach it with a curious mind. Every time you feel it's a failure or whatever, use that design thinking and creativity approach and see it as a learning keystone from where you can pivot. Maybe there's something you didn't see. Question yourself, go out there, ask other people, your peers, make it like the most playful possible so that you also feel that you're developing your own path and career, right? There are no mistakes, only learnings. You can develop creativity. Some people say, we are not creatives, you're an artist, I'm not, you're creative, I'm not. That's not true. It's completely human. It's like, breathing, eating, it's completely part of us. But we can learn to develop it when sometimes in some context it has been or maybe negated or maybe just forgotten. Doesn't have to judge again. Maybe it's just, you realize you would like to be more creative. Practice it. Question, go to learn about creativity. Be curious once again, be playful, and you will see it will develop. You'll have a learning path, like we all have learning path. So again, you can definitely develop it and share the words because it's definitely a word to be shared to your network and colleagues. And I would say knowledge is power. but also creativity is power, definitely. It will unblock a lot of situations. It will push you forwards. It will make you develop new solutions that you haven't thought about. So that would be my last words. Think about now how you're going to deploy your creativity next, in which project, personal, professional, collective, individual, I don't know. But I will leave you on that thoughts before we have, if you have more questions. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's amazing. Let's show some love to Sophie by using the React, the button, using a reaction, a soundboard. Let's show some love. That's been an amazing. I love the fact that the class was so interactive. People were able to talk about, apply what they learned to a case study. That's an amazing way of facilitation. Thank you so, so much, Sophie. Our time is fast spent. We have to run. I just shared a link in the chat now. If you are not already part of the community, please make sure you join with that link so that you can have access to all the events we're having. We're actually right now doing a workshop on video learning design. Everybody's going to be having access to 1 month free access, have 1 month free access to an AI video authoring tool. So make sure you join. We've had 2 classes and you have access to the learning platform as well to have access to the content. Thank you so much. As we're wrapping up the year, this is pretty much our last webinar this year. And then we'll have the last class of the workshop this weekend. So I'm wishing us a wonderful end of the year, a wonderful week. And we're actually trying to redesign our programs in Elid for the next year. So at the early next year, by God's grace, we're going to be sharing with you everything, the new things that are going to be happening. And if you want to volunteer, feel free to signify in the Discord group. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Sophie. We really appreciate and love you. Thank you so much. So
Thanks.
bye for now, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye. And
Bye.
everyone.